My name is Jennifer Webb, and I am very happy to be the Director of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid here at Flint Hill. I'm also very happy that all of you are joining us and spending some of your evening with us tonight. So we do have a great virtual preview in store for you. To tell you a little bit about it, our headmaster is going to tell you all about Flint Hill, and then he will turn it over to our division director, Don Page, who will tell you about life in the upper school. And then Debbie Ayers will join him too, our assistant director of the upper school, to share her work with you. And then we'll lead you through a panel where we have several of the upper school current parents and current students joining us. So they're excited to answer your questions and share their perspectives with you. And then finally, we'll close with some next steps to learn more about Flint Hill and next steps in the admission process. So we certainly hope that you enjoy the evening, and we're excited that you're here. And while I know everybody stays muted during these things for the best sound quality, we definitely want to hear from you. We want you to engage. So please don't be shy about using the chat. In the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little chat window where you can pop questions in there. Feel free to put comments in there as we move through the event. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful headmaster, John Thomas.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. And it is great to see so many of you here tonight. And as she said, you used the term headmaster. And for a lot of people, if you're not used to an independent school, that just seems kind of, what in the world is that? How does that fit into the scheme? The easiest way to keep it in mind is, and I'm reminded of this by a third grader. And a lot of times, if this was a live event, I would have been greeting you at the front door. Even at the end of the evening, I may have been saying goodbye to you as you left. And I'd been doing that at an event for our families. And a woman who it turned out was the aunt of two little girls in the third grade was leaving. I'd stopped and talked to them for a minute, hoped they'd had a good evening. And as they were leaving, they were overheard walking down the sidewalk where the aunt said to the girls, "So who was that nice man who said goodbye to us at the door?" I said, "Oh, that's Mr. Thomas. He's our school's mascot." So, you know, it just depends on your responsibility, though I am not the mascot. We have a husky named Klondike who is the mascot. And we use the Iditarod dog sled race as a metaphor for our educational journey. And the idea is that, you know, some days that journey must be beautiful and breathtaking. Other days it is probably downright scary and frightening. But the beauty is you're part of a team, that everybody on that dog sled is pulling that sled together. And so from our 4-year-olds in the junior kindergarten to our seniors, we constantly talk about being a team, being together. We have each other's backs. That's what's really important. And in fact, in a presentation I'm going to share with you in a minute, you'll get that idea of the dog sled with the whole idea of blaze the trail and why we talk about that, because we're doing all of this together. Now, we appreciate you being here because we know as good parents, you love your kids unconditionally, but you also know you have a huge responsibility to get them educated. And time goes quickly. And so you're in that search trying to figure out what would be a good opportunity to do that. And I hope as you look at us, as you get to know us tonight, as you talk to people tonight, and if you know other Flint Hill families in your communities or whatever, that you ultimately are looking for what is really the benefit behind this Flint Hill education. There are lots of through lines. There are lots of things we do with technology, with relationships. My gosh, with all of our work on equity and inclusion, everything is a through line from our lower to our middle, all the way through our upper. And if you're looking to join us, whether it's in 9th grade or, you know, whatever the year may be, that still jumps right in there with that through line, because ultimately we're playing for the long game. We're playing for who they're going to be, not just when they go to the next grade level or when they go to college in a few years, but who are they going to be when they're 35? Who are they going to be when they're 45? What kind of people are they, with a work ethic, with a sense of values and everything? And in fact, the values is the thing I want to share with you tonight. And to do that, I've got a brief slideshow I want to walk you through. But so that you focus on the slideshow and not on me, I'm going to shut my camera off. And I'm going to try and see if I can bring this up. And you can still teach old dogs new tricks. I hope that still comes through.
It's popping up now, John.
Is it? Okay. Burp. Hopefully we got it there.
Yep, looks
Oh,
great. Full
good.
screen.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yep.
But the whole idea is as you get to know us, we are very intentional, deliberate, strategic, and safe in everything we do. And so this idea of blazing the trail is critically important because that goes back to that whole idea of us being Huskies and what we're doing. But remember, we're doing all of it together. We're doing it in a way that makes certain that the students are at the center of everything we do. And in my career, I've been at 5 great schools that I loved every one of them, but I will tell you, Flint Hill is the only one that was truly student-centered. And I've been here 17 years, so it's given me a chance to truly see it in action, to see what the great teachers are doing and how everybody is working so hard to make sure that these students are getting ready for whatever their future is going to hold. And as we talk through this, you'll also begin to realize one of the benefits is we're a very entrepreneurial school. There is no sitting on any status quo. There isn't any, oh, well, we do that really well, so we'll just keep doing it the way we've always done it. No, we are constantly looking at how to do things better. It's almost like if you've ever done the high jump, you get over the bar, you get a personal best, but then the official raises the bar on you. Well, we do that, I think, in a very personal, in a very meaningful way. And working with parents, part of that is making certain that that partnership is real. And as we go into that, we do feel that the kids are always curious and they are always innovating and always trying to find ways to get better. And that's because ultimately, this is their education. They need to become active participants. They need to engage in it. And one of the ways they engage is by fully adopting our core values. We used to have 4 values, very simple and direct: honesty, respect, responsibility, and compassion. But then we talked a couple of years ago about how active we were as a school, that everything we did had to do with a level of momentum and activity. We talk about participating in what we do. And we said, but our core values, which mean the world to us, are static. So we ended up adapting and turned those 4 into 5 core values and made them very action oriented. And so I very quickly want to give you just an overview of what that is. The idea of respecting and valuing all equally. How do we make sure that we value the diversity we have as a co-ed school, as a school that respects the fact that some kids may learn a little differently, the fact that we have various races, religions, ethnicities, international things. If you look at any of the pictures on our web of the upper school, you'll see the flags. We have over 115 nationalities in our school family. What a gift that is for these kids to go to school, to grow up, have friends who come from all over the world, from all kinds of backgrounds, who suddenly are coming together to be one school family. And that's how we look at Flint Hill. We talk much more about being a family than we do of even being a community. So all of that comes back to that idea of how do we make sure people are respected and valued? And some of that is by leading and supporting with compassion. How do we make certain that people are welcomed when they come here? That when they walk in these doors, they know there's going to be somebody there who's going to have empathy and is going to understand what they've had to go through, or we know they've maybe been at a school that wasn't continuing to educate the way we were doing it, or was not using the technology that we use. How do we make sure that that compassion is there? Because there's a lot of stress in the world today. We feel it as adults, our kids feel it. We need to make certain that compassion is always there. And in fact, I will say one of the things I'm proud of what we do is these kids are in a very comprehensive program academically, in the arts and athletically, and in leadership opportunities, but we do it all through passion, not pressure. Because there are a lot of schools you can go visit with great reputations, and in 5 minutes, it's a pressure cooker. Great school, probably a great education, but boy, is it a pressure cooker. We're not. We're a place where the kids still laugh with each other. They sit down to have a conversation with their faculty members. They love going to office hours, to be with their teachers, to seek their teachers' help and everything. That's a wonderful benefit that I think is unique to Flint Hill. The third core value is acting with integrity. It's that whole idea of making certain that we're honest with each other. This was one of the core values when we were raising our 3 boys, that just everything came back to, we have got to make sure we always get the honest truth. But you've got to act with integrity. It's not just being honest when confronted. You need to lead with that honesty. And we've tried to do that as a school with our students and with our parents all through this pandemic. From March of 2020, when we all went into lockdown, to last year when we were here on campus, but having to have some kids virtual and some in the classrooms, and worrying about obviously all the distancing and the health protocols we did. We made sure that we built trust with our families. We made sure that we followed, I think, the three key guidelines to the partnership between home and school: communicate, communicate, communicate. And that just became a watchword for us as we went forward. But it was all coming back to making sure that we were open, transparent, and available. Because I also believe all of us as leaders need to be visible, available, accessible, and approachable. And I think you would find that here at Flint Hill. The imagining with what's possible, that's that looking down the road. That's the responsibility that we now feel for everything we do. How do we keep getting better and better? And I will tell you, some of that has come from our work with Apple Corporation and everything we have done with them. It's come from trying to continue to engage and benchmark with other schools, not just our local schools, but a number of years ago, we were invited to be a part of a group of 15 national large, complex independent schools like Punahou in Hawaii, and Harvard Westlake in LA, and schools in Florida and in Michigan, and all of that to give us a chance to reach out and test what we're doing and also share what we're doing so other schools could learn from us. And I will tell you that looking, for what's possible, that's what led to us building this incredible low or middle school building that just opened a year ago right next door to the upper school. But ultimately, it's coming down to blaze the trail, because that's, as a parent, that's what you want your children to do, is blaze their trail. How do we make sure they're going to get everything they need academically in the classroom? How do we make sure if they have a passion for the arts, they're going to get that nurtured and supported and helped in every way possible? Athletically, all of our teams, boys and girls, are highly competitive. But those are scholar athletes. Those kids are taking AP classes, they're singing in the choir or performing, in the theater, or working in a studio in their visual arts, and then they're competing on this field. And the beauty too is that many of them are also true leaders, and getting ready, looking down the road to their college counseling support that they'll get from our incredible team, and looking there. To give you one aspect of just one part of the program, which is just like sometimes we could talk about a team or whatever, I'll mention robotics, because a lot of you may have come from schools that have maker spaces and programs. Well, ultimately, when it gets to our upper school, we get into computer science, we get into, a cybersecurity competition, we do FIRST robotics in the winter. But the one I have to admit I get excited watching, because it just blows my mind that these are high school students, is a student unmanned aerial competition. And we've been invited to this probably now close to a decade. 3 years ago, when we were in the competition before COVID, which was the last time they had the competition, 75 schools nationwide, or internationally wide, nationwide, but also around the world, were invited to be in it. 71 of them were the engineering departments of colleges and universities. Only 4 high schools in the world were invited to be in this competition. We had our students had to build a hovercraft, a drone. It had to be able to go up 750 feet that made it invisible to the human eye. It had to fly over 5 miles. It had to avoid obstacles. They had to also build a rover craft that was attached underneath, and at one point they had to drop it to the ground, and it had to go 100 yards toward a target. And they had to do this entire competition themselves. Each team has their moment within 30 minutes. When the whole competition was done, the number 1 team was a university out of Quebec, Canada. Number 2 for the second year in a row was Flint Hill. Behind us on the list of the other schools that placed UCLA, Harvard, Stanford University, Cornell, the U.S. Naval Academy, Embry-Riddle University, all of those. And I will tell you, the first year we came in second in that competition, which was 4 years ago, I loved the fact that the third place team was Virginia Tech. So that meant there were two Virginia schools in the top 3 in the world. But was really kind of neat was that the leading or the 3 leading engineering students on the Virginia Tech team happened to be Flint Hill graduates who were trying to chase their high school. As I said, we are a school that takes seriously what we do, but we do it with this sense of passion. We do it with a way of helping the kids find their passions. And some of that comes from the fact that we have a vision for all of our kids, and then many of us as adults have accepted it as well. Take meaningful risks, be yourself, and make a difference. And these kids now, part of that idea of that trail is taking those meaningful risks, trying a class they've never tried before, going out for a sport they've never done before. Now I'm trying to turn all this off. Find what are the passions that excite them, and that will become lifelong passions. Be themselves, and that's you, home and school working together to do that, but ultimately make a difference. And we're thrilled that our children do make a difference. We graduate an incredible group of young people. And as I said, since we're playing for the long game, we love the fact that I can usually tell you when fall break is at every college in the country, because the alums are coming back in droves in the fall. As soon as they get home, they give mom and dad a hug and kiss, and boom, they come over to Flint Hill to catch up with their teachers, to catch up with their former classmates that are still here, because it is one exciting family. So I tend to talk fast and I get going, and it's good that you don't have to look at me while I'm talking, because I use my hands all the time. You know, it's just, I've got a disease with these hands. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I'm thrilled to welcome you tonight. I'm now going to have the honor of turning it over to Don Page so you can get some more direct ideas about what's going in the upper school. And Don and his team are people, students and faculty look forward to going to. When I was growing up, you did not want to be in the principal's office. Our upper school students want to be in Mr. Page's office. They know they can come in, talk with him, be with him. He's got a puzzle going all the time in the office. Kids will sit down to chat. Just a wonderful leader, and he's got a great team who works with him. So anyway, Don, I will turn it over to you, and I will stop talking.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it, especially the kind words. So as John mentioned, we really take our core values and our mission seriously. And I've been at multiple schools like John has, and we've learned it's not enough just to simply events these statements. You have to create a really judicious and thoughtful plan to put this community in place to engender and nurture this culture. And that's why when we start our school year, we have a really extended orientation with multiple segments that are held either in advisory, class meetings, sometimes school-wide meetings. If you were to walk on campus during orientation week, just this year, you would have seen a multitude of activities ranging from honestly, the pragmatic mundane to the socially complicated gathering. You would have seen advisors going over the student's schedule with them, making sure they understand where they're going and where they need to be. You would have seen sessions on the drop ad period and key behavioral expectations and textbook usage. But you would see these things at most any school. What I think makes Flint Hill unique are the deeper activities utilized that we use to build community among the students that are both new and returning. We know that the field games that the juniors and sophomores played together on the field are going to yield better conversations between them in the hallways. And we know that when the athletic council sits each grade down in the gym to go over the key Husky cheers, this is going to result in more students being a part of the student section community in the gym, where so much of that bonding happens. Just this past week, we had our tip-off classic. It was so wonderful to see students of every grade level up in white in the stands, doing the cheers, going through together, feeling like they were one again. And one of the seniors came over to me and said, I've just been waiting for this for a couple of years. When we match up those seniors with freshmen during the week and we have them play games like Pictionary, we're trying to begin the process of turning the seniors into mentors on campus. The seminal moment of that week is when we have every student and faculty staff member sign our core values board, which is then put in the main hallway of the upper school building. And these roughly 700 signatures, they serve as a daily reminder of the pledge that we have to each other in the classroom, on the field, and out in the greater community. So the result of all this intentional strategic work, and I can't tell you how intentional it is because of the summer meetings we do to get together and put this all together, and this amazing group of grade level deans that put it all together. The result of this is the supportive community I think you'll notice when and if you get to step on campus. This community goes beyond just creating a safe place for students to learn, but it allows students to think about taking meaningful risks, knowing that we learn through failing and we grow through experimenting. I get to watch every teacher teach, and today I was watching a math class, and I meet with every teacher at the beginning of the year. One of the things I say is, when I come to see your class, what do you want me to look for? And this teacher, like many of the teachers, said, I want you to tell me, do students feel comfortable if they make a mistake in my room? Like, do they feel comfortable making a mistake? And sure enough, in the middle of this algebraic lesson on the quadratic equation where they're doing determinants, students were raising their hand like, oh, I made that mistake too. They were owning the mistake. Like, oh, I did that too. I didn't think about the imaginary number. And that tells me a lot, where students not only owning the mistake, but feeling comfortable sharing it because they want to share what they're doing together. And so you got to build that safe place to do that. It's really hard to blaze your own trail and imagine what if in a community that doesn't support these risks and these mistakes. It really could be as simple as the experience of my own daughter, she, as an 8th grader who tried volleyball for the first ever time. From the moment she stepped out there, she had been surrounded by players and coaches who cared far more that she was trying something new than they cared about her immediate ability to spike a ball. And this was a kid, my daughter is in 8th grade, who was always used to tell me, I don't do ball game sports, I do theater. And I never thought she'd try a sport. And then she tried volleyball. And this nurturing and support stayed with her. And the number one thing she has on her holiday list this year is to play volleyball at a club somewhere. And my heart couldn't be warmer. It's a thing she found that I don't think she would have found if we hadn't come to Flint Hill. And this nurturing and support, this safe place, stays with the children and stays with the students all the way through their time at Flint Hill. And it's capped off by their senior project, where students pick an important topic to them that they're going to work out throughout their time at Flint Hill. And it's going to take them about 40, 50 hours. The last thing I said to a student today is a student came up to me named Quinn, who I'm going to mentor him. And he just wants to redo this project of rebuilding cars. It's where his passion is. And some reason we both rebuilt 1979 Datsuns. And he came up to me, he's like, Mr. Page, I sent you all the stuff you need. Please make sure my mom sees it. I'm so excited to do this. And he doesn't even get to start this for another 4.5 months. But he's so excited about that. Before we graduate them off into the world with these senior projects, we send them out on this mini exploration just to pursue something they care deeply about. And it is the ultimate moment of blazing their own trail and being yourself, since each senior picks their own project. Earlier this year, there was a meeting organizing this system with the coordinator, one of the members of our learning center, Stefa Buddha, and the colleagues started sharing some of the past stories and projects, and there were some tears shed in thinking back nostalgically of what our seniors have done. But before we can get your children to that point, we need to discuss our deep, broad, and rich curriculum. And so to go through the major points of that curriculum, I have with me tonight the assistant director of the upper school academic dean, Debbie Ayers, just an amazing human being who has such a wealth of knowledge. And just as I was talking to Quinn at the end of the day, there were 3 students that walked up to her office right the other day and said, can we just talk to you about a class today? We need some help. And that's the kind of place we are. So Debbie, I'm so glad that the kids are in your hands. And if you don't mind sharing with the curriculum, it would mean a lot.
I would love to. Thank you both, Don and John, for your comments tonight. It's great to have such a wonderful audience. And I hope you're beginning to tell how much we love this school and how much it means to us. As Don has his children at Flint Hill, my children have graduated from Flint Hill, and I love being a cheerleader for all that it has meant to us as a family. But I'm excited tonight to share with you a little bit of what it can mean to yours. So our academic program is very vibrant, very rich, and we are not stagnant at all. We are always sitting down with one another in curriculum committees and department meetings, academic deans. We are working all the time to make sure we're on the cutting edge. We hope that our program is one that students have some agency in. So we begin from day one when students walk onto our campus about talking about their passions, instructing them about course progression so they know that the courses that they're taking aren't just the same from year to year, that there's a skills progression that we want them to own and to be able to feel very strong that each step of the way they're making progress, that they're getting stronger, that they're building a resiliency, and they're able to advocate for themselves. So as maybe their interests change over the 4 years, that they have avenues that they can pursue where they're still developing core skills, but in spaces where they feel passion. We have 8 academic departments. This includes English, history, math, science. We have both classical language and modern language. We have a fine arts department, and we have an innovation department. So students will take courses in all of them, and they will have guidance along the way. So our students, the placement decisions aren't just set in stone. We have a lot of options. We build in time during the schedule through advisory, through opportunities to meet in the office with me, with other deans, to just get a feel for all that's out there for them. It's almost like going to the buffet and having to make these very difficult decisions about all of your favorite desserts. That's the hardest thing sometimes, is knowing you can't take it all. You're going to have to peel something away. But we want to have those discussions. It's very rich time we spend with them, and we think it's very vital college preparatory work. So that's just a snippet of what goes on with the academics. But even after their classes have started, the academic support is not over. Once we get them enrolled, we want to step in with them, give them a space to talk about how it's going, help develop their study strategies, help connect them with resources, and to make it an easy find when they need help, to know who all they can go to sort of just bat around some ideas for improvement, or to begin considering what comes next. After I finish this class, what options do I have? And John was right when he said earlier, taking a meaningful risk and trying a difficult class. Sometimes that's a conversation. Sometimes a conversation is, you have so many difficult classes, which one should we step back to so you have the appropriate balance? That is so important. We want to nurture good decision making with their academics too, to find the balance between their extracurricular activities and their academic endeavors, so that they are healthy and well and feeling very positive about their course of study. So that is just a little bit. I could go on and on and on. I'm so excited to think about another round of new Huskies coming in and getting to know your sons and daughters. But now I'm sure you would like to hear from our students and some of our current parents. I'm going to turn the mic back over to Don, and he will introduce you to our panel tonight. And it's going to be an exciting conversation for sure. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. So I'm going to go through the list here, and I'll ask some of the parents to introduce themselves first. And parents, when you introduce yourself, if you would give your name and then the grade level and name of your child, and then some extracurriculars or things that they do on campus, and then we'll have the students introduce themselves. So Pamela, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
Hi,
there you are.
yes. Hi, I'm Pamela Russell Trimble. I have a junior at the school. His name is Matthew Trimble. And one of the things that he loves doing, he's part of the cybersecurity club. So the drone thing that you were talking about, I'm getting excited for that. Socially, also, I used to pick him up at 3:30, but now that he's driving, he's always hanging out with some of his friends. So he's a social creature like his mother. So and I know that he is looking forward to doing track in the spring also. So there's just so many things to do. There's a wealth of activities he can be in.
Thank you, Pamela. I appreciate it. And I think, Ellen, you're here too?
Yes, I am. Hi, Don. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
My
Ellen.
name is Ellen Giuntini. I have a son also named Matthew. He is a sophomore at Flint Hill and joined when he was a freshman. He's been involved in soccer and also active in the Nova Neighbors sort of club, which is a lot of service opportunities for Northern Virginia. Socially, he is really, kind of close with people he doesn't like to tell me about, because I'll say, who are your friends? And he's like, I've got a lot. And I'm like, okay, fine. But he's always busy, and I know he has a lot of good connections in all of the ways that Don and John have explained. I also have an alum. I had a daughter, Samantha, who graduated from Flint Hill in 2018, and she went to Colgate and is already a senior and getting ready to graduate in May. Hard to believe. So I've been through the whole rodeo once, and looking forward to it again.
Thank you, Ellen. We also have some students with us this evening. Corey, I think you're here. Are you there, Corey? Oh, hey, Corey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Parker, and I'm a junior here at Flint Hill. And I came to Flint Hill my freshman year. A little bit more about me. I play volleyball. I've played every year I've been a part of Flint Hill. I'm a part of BSU. I'm the president of the debate club, and I'm also a part of Young Activist Club.
Her favorite class is also Introduction to Economics, which is taught by this bald guy who only teaches one class a day, but she just adores it. She swears in and out. So
That is true. That is my favorite class out there.
Tomas, I think you're here. Did I see you, Tomas?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey.
My name is Tomasz Daszek. I'm a freshman and I'm new to Flint Hill this year. I was a football manager for the fall season and I'm doing strength and conditioning right now.
Nice. And Haley, I see you right in front of my screen.
Hi, I'm Haley Simpson. I was actually new to Flint Hill my sophomore year. So this is my second year at Flint Hill. I play lacrosse and volleyball, and I am chair of the debate club, and I also am a young activist.
Yeah. Well, what I'd love to start with is, and parents, we, John, myself, Debbie, we present a variety of things, but we also not really always sure what each group is going to want to know about. And so we hope you feel comfortable putting questions in the chat or turning your mic on. But I'd love for the students to kind of start us off tonight by essentially sharing what they would tell another student, to people in this room, about any advice they would give them in the process as they look for where they want to go to high school. If you were in their shoes, what would you want to know and what would you tell them? So how about we go in the same order? We'll go Corey, Tomas, Haley. And then parents, if you have questions that or I see some students are with us tonight, which is awesome, please go ahead and start putting those in the chat and we'll address those after the students start us off. So go ahead, Corey, start us off.
So something I would definitely recommend for families and prospective students as well would definitely be to attend as many admission events as you can. I think for me, that played a large role in me deciding to come to Flint Hill, because it really allowed me not only to meet students that attend the school, but also the teachers that I could be having. It allowed me to see all the different opportunities and classes the school offer, which is really helpful. And especially, when you're applying to different schools, these admission events really are what, help you decide where should I go and what's the best school for me. So, whether it was the summer events or like the panels, which were really helpful as well for me, I was able to learn so much about the school, and it really helped me decide that Flint Hill was the one for me.
I definitely agree with Corey. However, my situation was different. I applied during COVID and there were only virtual events. But my brother is a senior this year, so I got intel from him. And the only school that I applied to is Flint Hill, because I knew the academics were strong, athletics were strong, and socially it's very welcoming. So that would be what I would look for.
That's great. Go ahead, Haley.
And like Tomas said, I also applied during COVID, so my experience with admissions is a little different, but I would agree with Corey that going to admissions event is a really big deal. I went virtually, like Tomas, so you don't really have that same experience, but I joined Flint Hill because I knew some people that were at Flint Hill already, and it was great. They talked very highly about Flint Hill. So that kind of helped me with my decision, but I would definitely agree with going to admission events.
Thank you, students. I appreciate you starting us off. I see some questions in the chat about math competitions that it looks like Miss Ayers, and then also our Dean of Students is in the chat as in the meeting as well. And I apologize, Howard, I didn't introduce you, but Howard, why don't you turn your camera on and just introduce yourself real quick to everyone.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. My name is Howard Chang. I'm the Dean of Students. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. In addition to serving as the Dean of Students, which I'm doing in my 4th year, I've also worked in other administrative roles. And prior to that, my earlier life in Flint Hill, I was the Latin teacher, Kurtaman team coach, and then ultimately the classics department chair. So a lot of experience with that side of the program, with co-curricular trips and competitions and that kind of thing. So I'm happy to be here, happy to answer the questions I can. Welcome.
Howard was honored this year. He was the keynote speaker at the Latin convention for the state from what he's accomplished. And so we're really proud of that work and the group that classics does. So there's a question about the Learning Center that I'll answer. And then there's a question about academics that I'll let Miss Ayers answer. So our Learning Center at Flint Hill has 5 full-time learning coaches. In the beginning of each year, they split up and work with and use a one-to-one coaching model with our students that meet either once, sometimes twice a week, depending on the needs of the student, to kind of work with them regularly. And the idea is to give them the skills and the systems they need so that the student can be productive and kind of self-actualizing, particularly as we prepare them for college. The Learning Center coaches also work with our teachers very closely about what the students are experiencing and ways to help. And the Learning Center also does kind of like PD. So my first PD back in January, professional development, our first faculty meeting back on January 3rd, the Learning Center is actually giving a presentation about the kind of neurological ways to engage students now that they've been in COVID for 18 months. Some students are struggling getting out of the screen. And so they teach the teachers, they support them. This morning, we had about an hour and a half long, maybe even a little longer student support team where we get together and we get a large group together and talk about how we can support students across the campus that might need a little extra support, and they're integral members of that. And so the Learning Center, if you have a learning difference and there's an accommodation, they'll walk you through the process of the paperwork and testing that you submit for that, and then the process of getting those accommodations. So Corey, I saw your hand up, go ahead.
I'm also a part of the Learning Center for ADHD. And I've been a part of the Learning Center since freshman year. And I really would say that the Learning Center really just helps you have like that access to just organization and access to your teachers very easily. And honestly, the coaches build strong connections with you. So they really learn your learning style and how you focus the best, how you study the best, how you stay organized the best, and they'll work with you. In freshman and sophomore year, the Learning Center coaches are they're guiding you more versus your junior and senior years where it's more like self-guided, but they're just there to kind of just say like, hey, Corey, so what do you need to do this week to prep for your test on Monday? Versus freshman and sophomore year, they would be more like, so this is what I think you should do, and then so on. So I definitely think Learning Center is an amazing platform that Flint Hill offers, which I know a lot of schools don't. And that's definitely a big plus, I would say.
That's great. I see Ms. Ayers and Mr. Chang responded to some of the academics, particularly about math and science in the chat. There was a question about what is the basketball and volleyball program like? Have you been part of area and national competitions? Can you make a link available to see what the competitions are like? I might defer to one of the members of our admissions team to pull a link up that you can see. Our volleyball program, is there a word other than hyper successful? Looking at banners on the wall, I think it's 5 of the last 6 state championships. I believe they won 36-1 this year. So the volleyball program is robust. There's a huge amount of students as part of that. Corey as part of that as well. Very successful program. The basketball program, our coach on the men's side, Rico Reed, has been a long-standing member of the community. A lot of successful athletes that moved on to D1 programs, and also a very successful program. They do winter tournaments. I'll rely on the admissions team to kind of pull up the ones that they connect to, and whether there's video through Max Preps or any of those kind of things. The girls program is coached by Jody Patrick, who, if you ever get to see her coach, she's the calmest human you'll ever meet on a campus and the most animated coach on the sideline you'd ever see. It's just amazing. And also really successful program, which sometimes happens when you have a really successful volleyball program and you have those athletes on both sides of those. So, but yes, both programs are extremely successful, extremely well coached, and really robust. A lot of people want to be part of those programs. We even have a freshman boys basketball program because there's so many young men that want to kind of join to be part of that program. And then I think the 8th grade basketball program was oversubscribed. Like, we're out of gym space in that regard. So I see a question that says, do you have rock climbing athletics? The last thing I did outside when I was doing traffic duties, I tried to come up with, what do you cheer to our rock climbers as they were getting on the bus to go to a competition over at Bullis. We do have rock climbing athletics coached. I think there was roughly 30 athletes that are part of that group as they were getting on to do that. It's a really popular group. So we do offer that as I think it's just winter. Howard, does that clock with you that it's just winter we do rock climbing?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, I see Miss Ayers already hopped in. So, okay, other questions? Oh, hey, the chat's going deep. This is great. I love them when these parents and students get in. This is great. It's a great conversation.
Mr. Page, there's a question about whether there's an additional fee for the Learning Center, and just also asking for more commentary about the Learning Center. I think there was already discussion from some of the students, but I just wanted to clarify that there's no additional fee for the Learning Center. It's, if a student is brought into the Learning Center for services because they qualify based on psychoeducational testing done outside of school, then that's just part of being at Flint Hill, and that's baked into the program.
Yeah. And yes, that there is no additional fee as part of that program. And then I see, Mr. Chang, you answered that we do not have students repeat math programs, but maybe Miss Ayers, maybe you could talk about placement tests and when students come into our program.
Yes, I was just filling in the chat too. With placement testing, there will be a variety of entry points for students joining us. So a student might join our community in Algebra 1, a student might join our community in AP Calculus AB. Regardless of that entry point, we can carry them through their whole 4 years in a math program. So we have the ability to go into multivariable calculus, linear algebra. We've had a student before go on to differential equations. We can also serve the student who's interested in a different way of applying math. We have probability and statistics. We have offered independent studies with math related topics before. So it's very much a diverse curriculum, but it meets students where they are. And as I mentioned earlier, it keeps them on a pathway of progression. So the focus is on skills. And so yes, but the placement test is very helpful for us to make a bridge from the sending school to our program to prevent there from being gaps that could prevent them from success at a future level of math. So we use those instruments to help make that a smooth transition for all students joining us.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. One thing I thought might be useful if maybe Ellen and Pamela could share particularly why they chose Flint Hill for their children. Very frankly, we're in Northern Virginia. There's wonderful public schools. There's wonderful independent schools around here. Maybe you could share why it worked well for your family and your child.
Do you want to go first, Ellen?
Okay, yeah, I'll go first. So we had some good advice from someone who said that high school is the most busy time a person will ever have. And it's really true between the contact hours in the classroom, the time after school for clubs or sporting activities, and then the service commitments. And so from our perspective, we live very close to Flint Hill, and we were very interested so we sort of drew a circle on the map about how far out we were willing to go so that we couldn't, be putting too much time in terms of commuting. And then Flint Hill easily stood out because it had such a high academic reputation, and that was quite critical to us. I like all the extras and they're wonderful, but the real value to me is the academic classroom preparatory work that makes the child ready to move on and be successful in life, even beyond college. And I really think that, the most important skill you can gain is learning how to think. And I think Flint Hill does a great job of teaching kids how to think, reinforcing how to organize themselves so that thinking be turned into good work product. And, just really how do you become an autodidact and continue to learn throughout life. And I certainly have seen that with my older daughter, and they're well on their way with my son.
Thanks, Ellen.
Well, when we made our decision, Matthew had his eyes on Flint Hill since he was in 7th grade at Brown Academy. So, but the thing about my husband and I is that when we went to visit Flint Hill, they were consistent with their communication. And that was important to us because if you haven't even joined a school, and you need to see what kind of communication you're getting. And if you're getting great communication before you go to the school, that's an indication we thought of how it was going to be after getting to school. And we weren't wrong on that. So the one thing I also really appreciated is that there was just this consistent, genuine concern that we felt from the first day that I just took a tour all the way through. And it just exudes from the school. And it's not just from the teachers, because what I intentionally did is I spoke with some of the students while we were there too, and I watched the students interacting with one another. And we went to as many events as we could before the school year started, and it was always consistent. And then I love the way the teachers, when even from freshman year, when we would have the meetings with them, they knew these specific things about Matthew. You could tell that the teachers genuinely knew Matthew as an individual. So that was very important to us because we knew that Flint Hill was a standout for the quality education. But if your child doesn't feel comfortable and your child doesn't feel like that they can thrive in the environment, then you're not going to have success. And so when the two of those came together, we did not make a mistake going to Flint Hill because he just continues to go bound over bound over bound. And so it's just been beautiful to watch. It was the right choice.
Thank you. That was so wonderful. And I promise you, we don't feed them these lines. We just ask them to show up. So I appreciate what you shared. I see a question. Do students have access to all homework online digitally? Tomas, maybe you could talk about how you have access to homework and how that works for you?
Absolutely. So Flint Hill uses a system called supported by Blackbaud called Husky Hub, and that it's like Google Classroom and like everything that you would ever need. You have an assignment book where you can see what homework is due what day, what quizzes and assessments you have each day. You can see your grades. You can send messages to your teachers. I used it at my old school, so I knew it. I was familiar with it, but it's very easy to get to know, and you get to see everything.
And then, Haley, Corey, anything else you would add for students about how you manage your homework or how the system works? I know part of this, I love the way Ellen said, is about learning how to learn. Maybe talk about how you function in those things to kind of, as you plan out the busiest time of your life. Yeah.
So like Tomas said, Husky Hub is definitely one of the easiest ways to stay organized. So on Husky Hub, there is an option where if you have started an assignment, you can press a button that changes it to yellow or green. So green means it's completed and yellow means it's in progress. So it definitely helps me with like staying organized and making sure that I complete all my work. And like the teachers are very, very supportive. So they post everything on Google Classroom. They have everything assigned to you, and it's very helpful to like use Husky Hub to know what you have to do.
And to add on to what Haley said about the teachers being extremely supportive, the school also offers what we call office hours, which happens twice per day, depending, like Tuesday through Friday, in the morning after 2 classes and then at the end of the day. And during that time period, you can either spend time, doing your homework by yourself, hanging out with your friends or whatever, or you can, be productive, of course, and go to your teachers and ask them questions. You can take corrections. You can, go over your notes with them or like anything like that. And the teachers really do care. And I think during that time, you really have that one-on-one sort of experience and connection with your teachers versus that like whole class that you typically have like just during the regular class time. So I think office hours is another great resource that the school provides to all their students. And if you use it correctly, it'll definitely not only help you stay on top of what you're learning in school, but also help you build that strong connection with your teachers as well.
Yes, and office hours is definitely a good tool to use, or like a good option to use. And also, I recommend having a free period. So you're required 5 classes and 2 free periods. This year, I'm taking 6 classes and 1 free period, and I have my free period to use if I need to finish my work that I don't finish at night. It's definitely a really good time to just finish your work. If you have a test in the next period, it's really useful to just have that extra time to study and get that extra hour just to like get your stuff done.
And I'll add to that in a way that kind of also adds to Mr. Gorman's question about bus pickup and drop off, which is myself having been at multiple schools and having been a coach myself. I've been at places where I'm coaching a practice that doesn't even start till 7 p.m., much less a game. And at Flint Hill, because of the way we do the schedule and the way we do the office hours, athletics start at a certain point so that practices are done by 5:45. And then we have this late bus. And so that all of the practices end so students can be home by a certain point. Now, game nights are always very different, obviously. But I think that's really beneficial that there's this athletic period where they all are working and then they get to go to bus and be home. And having been at places where I've seen athletes who don't even get to go home from practice till 8:30 at night based on space, it's really key. And so for Mr. Gorman's question, I saw Mr. Chang responded, but for the purpose of the group, what we do in the summers, we get a sense of who wants bus transportation and where they're at. And then we try to use where people live to create a route that best serves that family at that group of families at that time. And so there's one route that comes in the morning that drops off. And then in the afternoon, there's a bus right after school that normally leaves campus around 3:50. It leaves our campus at 3:30, but it goes over to lower school to pick up others. And then leaves at 3:50, and then another one that leaves 5:45, 5:50-ish around there for athletes. And so, and it's kind of analogous to what we do, which is we don't have this firm structured bus route. We want to see what do the kids need and what are our needs this year. And so we try to adapt it as it goes along. So, Corey, Haley, Thomas, any of you ride the bus?
No, I live 9 minutes away from school.
Yeah. Look at that smile. You're like 9. You've got it clocked, not 10. 9.
I know it's 9 according to Waze.
Oh, man. All right. Let's see if there's any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chang. There is an additional fee for transportation. Okay. We have a question. What's your least to the students? What's the least favorite thing about Flint Hill?
I think I'll go first. Definitely my least favorite thing is the hot lunch. You definitely find through the salad bar, the yogurt or pudding. It's not my favorite thing about Flint Hill, but
Yeah.
You get through it.
Haley, what about you?
For me, it's really hard to think about my least favorite thing. I would say I enjoy the lunch, but like Tomas said, some options are not my favorite. But when it comes to like academically or the school in general, I don't have any like dislikes about it.
I'm gonna have to agree with Haley and Tomas. Academic wise, there's nothing I dislike. However, there are a few lunch days that are not my favorite, but I think in general the lunch is really, really good compared to a lot of other schools. Like I would say that our lunch is pretty top tier, if I'm being honest. And we have a wide variety of different options as well, which is awesome.
Well, I luckily also saw that they asked, what is your favorite thing about Flint Hill? So why don't you go ahead and share that too? That might feel more comfortable in any order, students.
I guess I can go first. I would say my favorite thing about Flint Hill is definitely the community. I feel like if you're going through the admissions process, you've probably heard that a whole lot from a bunch of different people. For me personally, whether like with my freshman year coming in, I felt like I already knew so many people. I had so many people I consider my friends. And every year you just realize how much of a community Flint Hill is, whether it's through like the town meetings or you're walking through the hallway and you realize, oh my gosh, I know this person and that person. You're all just kind of, everyone knows each other. I mean, I consider Flint Hill like my second family, my home away from home. I could leave my real family just to see my second family, and all like the teachers, the faculty, the administrators, and the other students. It makes up the whole amazing Flint Hill community, which I personally really love and admire about the school.
I can go next. Like Corey said, community is definitely one of my favorite things. Like being a new student, my sophomore year, especially during COVID, it can be hard to meet new people. But coming to Flint Hill, I felt very, very welcomed, and I didn't even feel like I was a new student. I felt like I've been at Flint Hill my whole life. And another thing that's my favorite is the academic support. For me, I need structure, and coming to Flint Hill, I've been in public school my whole life, so my classes were way bigger than my classes at Flint Hill. So being in a smaller class, there's a lot of academic support, and having office hours and having a free period, it's very helpful for me to make sure I get my work done. And all the teachers are very, very supportive, and I feel like I can email them or talk to them about anything, and there won't be any negative connotation for them. So it's really good.
I definitely agree with both Corey and Haley. The community aspect of Flint Hill is great. I mean, I walk through the hallway and I know 10 people who have a free period and people who are just walking around in the hallway, maybe getting lunch. The first week is definitely difficult. It was difficult for me because I only knew 2 other people from Westminster. I came from Westminster. And I now have so many friends from my advisory, and I know so many different people from different grade levels. Like I know Corey. We have mutual friends. It's just I knew people from graduates from my other school who go to Flint Hill now. There are quite a few, but it's easy to get wrapped in a hug in the Flint Hill community.
Well, I see one more question I think would be great before we get to 7:30 and we hand it back over to the admissions team. And I saw Mr. Chang address it a little bit in the chat, but particularly about how we handle diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll say from my experience, having been relatively new to Flint Hill, it started with us at the top. A great chunk of our leadership training over the summer was continued diversity, equity, and inclusion training with outside consultants to kind of make sure we understand the way we look at the way we set up programs throughout the school and the lens we use in those situations. I think the other component, to that is last year we made a pretty robust culture and climate survey to kind of get a gauge of how we're doing on these things, to see where do we need to improve and where do we need to grow. But really the work happens on a daily basis. I think you could find multiple students where they'll tell you, Mr. Page says, Mr. Page will say to me, I'll say, I have one job, and that's to make everyone feel like this is their home. And that's the only thing I won't tolerate is someone making someone feel like this isn't their home, because students learn better when they feel safe. They learn better when they feel like they're part of a community. And they know like that we take that extremely seriously in all ways in the way we impact each other. Because the construct, the core of that is to feel like you're part of a group that respects and accepts you. And that's where we start. We respect all equally. And so on a daily basis, we hold those things to account. And the other things Mr. Chang mentioned, which is some of our class based instruction, some of our instruction that happens in advisory, some instruction that happens as a school quite often. And even in my short time here, Mr. Thomas being honest, there are students that feel comfortable, and it makes me so proud they'll come to my office and say, Mr. Page, we want to talk about something that's bothering us. And then we go handle it because this is their home. And you can't learn at a place that's not your home. So that being said, I've hit my 7:30 limit. And like Mr. Thomas, I could go on forever and talk about this place I love so much. But it's time to hand it back over to Jennifer and her team.
Thank you very much, Don. And thank you to the students and parents and Howard and Debbie and John for all the great information that you've shared. And I'll just echo what Don said. We don't pay the students or the parents. We just ask them to show up. And time again, we enjoy hearing everything that they have to share about our community. So at this point, we'll change direction a little bit and talk a little bit more about the admission process at Flint Hill. So I know I recognize a lot of faces and a lot of names here. If you're far through the admission process, you're in touch with a admission officer and you have a good grasp and you're almost complete or you're complete. I know it's late and dinner or kids and other things might be calling, so I won't be offended at all if you log off. But if you'd like to learn more about the admission process, you haven't been through it yet, or if we're also going to talk about some next steps and some other events upcoming at the end. And this segment is just about 10 minutes. So we'll tell you more about all of those things. So to get started, a little bit about the admission process itself at Flint Hill. We approach the process in a way that we don't want it to be stressful or high pressure. A lot of us parents have been through the college admission process, and those vary. But this we aim for this to be very, very low pressure. We want to get to know you. Our team loves getting to know new families, and we want you to enjoy getting to know us too, because that's what this is all about, us getting to know each other to decide if we have a partnership in our future. And so with that, we approach it with transparent dialogue, and we ask families to do that too. And as long as both of us are keeping the student in the center of the decision, just like we do with everything else at Flint Hill, and also keeping the mission of the institution there, then we'll arrive at the best place that makes the most sense for the students. And in terms of the process itself, so our application link is there on your screen. It's also linked on about every web page. You can see an apply now button. So that goes directly to start an application account. And the first step is submitting the application form. That takes an average of 16 minutes. So just filling out some information about your family. You don't have to have any documents on hand. You'll know all of the information that's in the application. So that is the very first step. Once you hit submit on that, it takes our office about 24 hours, maybe 48 during a really busy time to process that application. And at that point, when you log into your Husky Hub account, is the name of the system that we use for the application, you can see an active checklist. And that checklist will list out all of the materials that you're required to submit, and then as we get them in and process them, then it's updated there. So the materials that are required are transcripts, progress reports up to this date that you submit them, recommendations, one from a math teacher and an English teacher. So what you do in the checklist is you enter the teacher's email address, and our system automatically pings them with an email with a link to a specific form that they'll complete. There is a questionnaire that's to be completed by the parent, another one by the student. This requires a little bit more thought than that application form, asks you to reflect and even write a very short response. Grading rating sample is required. That can be uploaded to the checklist. SSAT is optional at Flint Hill. So if you need help deciding whether that might be a useful data point for your family to submit or not, then reach out to one of our admission officers and we can help you make that decision about whether that should be submitted. And then there is a parent and a student interview. It's completed during the same appointment time, the same time block, but they are done separately. So an admission officer will meet with the parents and then meet with the students, or vice versa. And you'll want to schedule that piece as soon as you can. So as soon as you have access to your admission checklist, you can have access to the interview scheduling link. So you'll just click on that link and then you'll be able to set up a time and day that works for you. So when to apply? Now is a great time. The application deadline is January 21st, and that is to have all of the pieces submitted and the interview complete as well. So there is time. No need to panic. Our team is here to help you work through it, and we can certainly get it in time. But I would recommend that you start pretty soon. That application form is key, because once you submit that, we're like, okay, they are applying, and we are here to help make sure that you don't miss any of the pieces that you need to get in by January 21st. So if you're interested in applying for financial aid, another important deadline to note is January 25th is the financial aid deadline. March 4th is when decisions are sent out, along with financial aid decisions, if you've applied for financial aid. And then you'll have a couple weeks to return an enrollment commitment to us. And during that time, we'll have some revisit events. And then in April, there's a celebration and a placement testing for upper school. During May, new family information night. And then we start to prepare for the transition. We have some community events, some socials for the students, the new students to meet current students and other new students, and the same for parents as well. And so we'll spend a lot of time celebrating that we've found each other and that we've started a beautiful partnership for your child's education. And so what to do next? So how to connect. You're at an event now. Great start. I really hope that you've enjoyed it, and hearing from so many of our wonderful colleagues and parents and students. There's other events that we've had that are some different topics. We had an arts and innovation event about a week ago, which was incredible. The link to the recording for that is on our events website. We have a event all about curiosity next week. It's cross-divisional, lower school, middle school, and upper school. We'll have a presentation by our Director of Studies, Emily Sanderson, and she'll talk about why and how curiosity is so important at Flint Hill, and then we'll dive into some curious questions. And then on January 25th, we'll have a parent-to-parent event. So if you're eager to talk with some current parents, that's a great event for you to come to. That's a virtual one. And it is cross-divisional as well. If you want to start a conversation with a current parent sooner, we have an Ask a Parent webpage that's linked to our admission page. So you can find it in the admission menu bar, where we have 4 parents that are ready to receive emails, phone calls, and connect with you right away if you don't want to wait for that until that January 25th event. So there's some other recorded events there, and there's 2 upcoming ones that you can register for soon. Also, our admission team's here. So there's a link there, flinthill.org/admission team. That's a mouthful. And so you can go there to schedule a phone consultation, schedule a virtual meeting, schedule a tour if you haven't been to our campus yet. I know a lot of you have, but for you, those of you that haven't, schedule a tour and come walk through the halls and see our teachers and our students in action. And our social media page is linked at the bottom of our website. We are very active on social media. You get to see what our students are up to, our parents, our faculty, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of those channels. So that is our admission presentation. So I see a lot of thanks in the chat. Thank you for being here. If you have any other questions about the admission process or anything else, feel free to chat those questions in now, and we will be glad to answer them. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Well, it's pretty slow, so I'm taking that as a really great sign that we've answered your questions. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Well, we've enjoyed you being here. Thank you for the thoughtful questions. Thank you for listening to our wonderful school. I have 2 young kids at the school too. I know other of my colleagues were talking about having their kids here, and I have two younger ones, and it is truly a magical place. So we hope to see you through the process. Does the application need to be submitted prior to scheduling the interview? It does. So in terms of scheduling the admission interview, you do need to submit that form that takes 15 minutes, and that opens up the gateway to the interview schedule so that you can schedule an interview. If you're looking for the interview to just help you determine if Flint Hill is the fit or not, the right fit or not, then you can schedule a virtual meeting or a phone call to have that conversation. Great. And then I see a question about how many students do join in grade 10, and we do have students that join at all grades at Flint Hill. So our community is used to welcoming new students to Flint Hill, regardless of the grade, because there's different reasons that people transition. In terms of the number for 10th specifically, it's around a dozen. In terms of the next steps after the application and the interview, so the application, all the materials I listed, the interview, all due by January 21st. And then after that, your file is with us and it's with the admission committee. So we're reviewing that. We might have a couple of events. And then on March 4th, you receive the decision notification. And then you'll have a couple weeks to return the commitment. Thank you for the questions. Okay, in terms of the student population for upper school, it's about 550. I think that we linked the upper school schedule. We'll get that in a follow-up email as well, so that you can see the schedule. And in terms of the number of students that get into 9th grade in terms of a percentage, it does vary from year to year, and we've learned more than ever that we can't base the future on history. The last few years particularly have been different than the rest of history. And so we have been having more and more applicants apply to Flint Hill, which has decreased our acceptance rate some the last couple years. With that said, 9th grade is one of our biggest entry points. So I don't want to deter you on that. Okay. In terms of if we admit for senior year, on very specific occasions. So senior year is a little bit of a trickier year for admission for a variety of reasons. So I do recommend that you schedule a phone call with an admission officer so that we can kind of learn more about your situation and determine if this a 12th grade admit might be possible. Lots of great questions. Great. Okay, well, I think I've answered all of them, or we've answered all the ones that have been dropped into the chat, but we'll certainly scan that and make sure we've answered your questions. If we haven't, we'll send a follow-up email. And again, thank you so much for spending some of your evening with us, and we are really looking forward to continuing the conversation with your family. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Good night.